Hi, welcome to Cloud Love. My name is Marco Martinez and today I want to start a new series of videos talking about computer vision. Last year, I created a video using TensorFlow, a DJI Tello, and Python. So for this year, I want to switch things up and reuse the same stuff, but now instead of using Python, use NodeJS for the backend basically. So for this video, for the first video, I want to basically explain a little bit about the DJI Tello that I use, and also how to control it using a gamepad. So please stay tuned, leave your comments at the end, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed to this channel. And thank you, enjoy. So hi, so for the first video I mentioned that I'm gonna cover how the DJI Tello drone works, how to send UDP commands, UDP messages to the drone, how to receive those acknowledged responses from the server and from the drone, and also how to use a gamepad to control the drone. Again, that was one of my first mistakes when I first started with the Python computer vision app that created last year. I forgot to include something to control the drone and something to basically, in case of an error, how to basically stop the motors or move the drone to the right, left, or do anything that has to be immediate. I forgot that part, and actually I added that part at the end. And again, using this approach, you will save a lot of crashes, or you will prevent more crashes. So let's start first with the drone itself. So the DJI Tello, it's a not very cheap, but a relatively cheap drone that you can actually send commands to the drone. For sending commands, here on the official documentation, I'm using the Tello SDK 1.3. You can also use the Tello SDK 2.0. So for establishing a communication channel with the drone, you have to use an UDP messages on a specific port. And here for sending commands and receiving acknowledged responses, you have to bind to port 8889. So I'm going to just scroll down a little bit on the same documentation doc, and here is the list of commands available. So commands: take off, land, stream, go to the left, go to the right, go up, down, flip left, forward, backward. So you have all those commands. And when you send a command to the Tello drone, the drone will respond once the command is completed. It will respond as okay, or in case of an error, the drone will also respond an error, and sometimes with an error message. So that's something to keep in mind. And then for that, you have to have your drone connected. So normally when you turn on your drone, it will automatically create a Wi-Fi network, and you have to connect either your laptop or your mobile phone to your drone. So you will see an SSID with the name of the Tello and the ID of the drone. So that's for sending and receiving commands. And also very handy, here we have the Tello state. Again, the only difference is that it's a different port. Instead of being 8889, you have to bind to port 8890 for receiving states, and the states are here in the bottom of the same document. States are basically sensor data. So the drone, once you send your first command, I'm gonna just highlight that. So you have to first to send a command message to the drone, and the drone will start sending periodically sensor data like the temperature, the battery, the different sensors that are available, the flight time, height, barometer, and all that information. It will send that every half a second or less. So now let's jump into NodeJS. So how we bind our drone, or how we connect our drone using NodeJS. So for that, first, I just want to clarify how the communication works. I already said that UDP is a message protocol, one of the simplest ones. It doesn't have an error check, and it doesn't have an acknowledge like an HTTP. So it's very simple. So again, here I have here on this screen a message turned into a buffer. So I'm just converting a string, Cloud Love, into a buffer. So like an X array of characters. So I have hexadecimal 43, 6C, 6F, 75, 64. So that's hexadecimals. And if I just copy that information and paste it here, it will convert back to an ASIC character, and again it's cloud love. So using this approach, the drone we are communicating from our computer to the drone. So that's also something to have in mind. And again, for more information on the commands, I have my own documentation on how the commands work on my Tello 3D Mission Control NodeJS repository. And here's my collection of commands and how they work, and also the response type that we can have once the drone acknowledges or drops an error. And here also at the bottom I have here how the format of the status works, and also a sample message on how the string is sent back to the computer on port 8890. So again, very useful information. So let's start with the code itself. So again, in Node.js, to start a UDP socket, so first you have to import the dgram library. And from that library, you have to create a UDP4 socket. So it's for an IP4 IP. So here I have two sockets. The first socket called server, and the second socket called status. So again, the first one is to send commands and receive the acknowledged commands. So primarily, it's going to be used to receive those acknowledged commands from the drone. So again, just a small recap. If I go to my documentation here. So for example, if I send takeoff to the drone, a string command, the drone will respond with an OK or an error. And just to give an example, for example, if I have my drone off, or if the motors are stopped, and I send a land command, the drone will throw up an error and respond to my port with an error message. Okay. Or if everything goes well, it will respond with an OK on my server socket. Okay, and my server socket, it's bind to port 8889, that we already said. And for the statuses, I have another socket, so it's called status. So that my socket for receiving status. And that's a different port. It's port 8890. And again, this is the default IP address of the Tello drone. So once you turn on your drone, the drone will automatically create a Wi-Fi network. Once you connect, it will give you an IP address 192.168.10.2, and obviously the number one is for the drone itself. So that's the number one's for the drone, and the number two it's for you, the computer. And so let's scroll down. So let's see how our socket connections look like. So if I scroll down here, line 121 from the Tello game controller Node.js, here I have that I binded my UDP socket to the port 8889 for receiving acknowledged responses. So this code is, again, it's a couple of event listeners for receiving messages for when we are connected, and if we have an error. So this is if when we connected, when we receive a message on that port, and if we have an error. And again, here we are only waiting for OK or error messages. And here at the bottom we have another binding on another socket or for another UDP port, and this is for listening and for message or for the status. So again, here I actually missed the error, but you can actually add it. And again, here we already established that UDP port is for receiving the statuses from the drone. So like this is a simple messages. So again, this is for receiving this information. Okay, so let me just remove extra lines. So we have our two sockets bind to 2 different UDP ports for receiving information from the drone. And so how to send information to the drone, how to send those messages to the drone. So here we only created servers basically. We just bind 2 sockets to 2 different UDP ports for receiving messages. So for here we are not doing anything, we're not sending anything to the drone. And for sending information to the drone, again we have this part, and it's basically sending commands as a buffer to the drone. No? So it's a very simple messages here. This is server, so we're using the same socket server that it's bind port 8889. We're sending a message as a buffer. The length of the buffer, so when the message starts 0, and the length of the message, so 0 to X number of characters. The port 8889, the IP address of the DJI Tello, so 192.168.10.1. Scroll back here. And that's all. That's pretty much all. So we're just sending commands to the drone itself. And again, that's very simple. So other stuff here that I want to mention, obviously we can, using this information, we can again send RC commands, send commands like land, go to left, go to right. And I did that for my 3D control system. So it's basically it's just staging all those commands and creating animations or creating movement of the drone as animations. But here, for this example of using Gamepad, again, you have to install another library. This one you have to install it. So npm Gamepad. So you have to install this library Gamepad. Initialize the library. And here here in this section, we have to basically tell the library how fast we want to pull information from the controller. And here also I have how fast I want to send that information that I receive back to the drone. So here in this section from line 23 to 76, this is just a simple object on how I'm mapping the buttons. So the buttons to a specific command. So for button number 4, because the buttons on the library are numbered, are button 4 to X number, and the sticks are called axes. So it might be axis 0, 1, 2, and 3. And here, as you can see, axes go from -1 to +1. And buttons is just if it's pressed or if it's released, so you have that kind of feedback. So here I'm just from line 23 to 76, I'm just mapping the button. So button number 4 is mapped to command land and so forth. So 12 to flip to the left, and I have the same for Xbox One, I have the same for PS4. So that's basically it. The only other stuff here I have, this is for scanning the gamepads. So once we have initialize it, we scan it, and we got the device itself. So it's a vendor ID and manufacturer ID, I believe. I have had that in my documentation. So let me go to the repository. So once we gather information from the controller, we know exactly the vendor ID and the product ID for each control. So that's how we know when you plug or when you disconnect, unplug another controller back, it will automatically know exactly which button it does what, in other words. And again, the only nice thing that we're doing here, or we're the only probably cool thing that we're doing here, is that, okay, so once someone presses down, so once it's down, so when the user presses a button on the gamepad, that input is registered on an object, a temporary object that it's holding which button we pressed. So because we're sending commands to a drone through UDP, I don't want to overflow the messages. So right now I didn't have any issues, and I'm sending commands every 300 milliseconds to the drone. So if I pressed X, Y, or something on the key on the gamepad, and I move the stick, I don't know, from 75% up or 75% left, so that information it's buffered, then sent every 300 milliseconds to the drone on a UDP message. So let me just first let me show you how it looks. Without connecting the drone, without sending those messages, I'm gonna just comment that line. Okay. So let me comment this line so you will see how it looks. Let's console log this one also. Let me go to the library. Not index. Let me see. Okay, I don't have any controller connected, so I have to. Let's fix that information. Let's actually fix that error right now. So it's an error when we don't have any controller connected. So I'm gonna just connect one right now. I connected my Xbox One controller, and if I relaunch the application, okay, it detected an Xbox One controller. As you can see, every 300 milliseconds we are sending those RC commands. And if I move the stick up, down, we're sending those commands to the drone. Again, if I flip the land, take off, command. So as you can see, this is how basically it's working. Very simple. And let's fix the error right now. So the error was online 180. If device is not undefined, so basically if we don't have any, if the device object doesn't contain anything, basically don't process it. So let's start. Let me unplug the controller, see if it works. Yeah, it's working. So I don't have anything connected right now and it's working. Let me connect PS4 controller. Okay, you connected a PS4 controller and it's working exactly the same. Let me unplug it and plug the Xbox One controller. So I don't have any more controllers available. I probably have a PS3 and I probably have an Xbox 360 controller laying around in my house, but I don't have them in hand. So right now the only controllers that I'm supporting, it's a PS4 controller and an Xbox One controller. So anyways, I hope you like it. Again, if you like this video, please subscribe, and if you want to support this channel, you can also visit my Patreon website and support this channel. Again, thank you for staying this long, and again, this is a series of videos for computer vision. So we will move further and further into TensorFlow and how to control the drone with the information that we receive from the camera. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye bye.